Alrighty guys, we are back and this time we are taking a look at Lab 2. So before we get started, let's go ahead and set up our idle. Let's get it ready. We need to go to File, New File. We need to go ahead and save it. And this is going to be P2 Lab 2. And you'll always need to put an underscore, your last name, and your first name. All right, we'll give it a save. We will need to put in the name. You'll need to put the actual date. You'll need to put the assignment name. This is what, P2 Lab 2. And you will need to put the description, and this is going to be using dictionaries. All right, nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at the instructions. So here we are. We are given this table, and we need to write a program that creates a dictionary that has these key value pairs. All right, let's go ahead and do it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 items that we are going to put into our dictionary, and let's go ahead and do it. So first things first, we need to give our dictionary a name. These items in the dictionary are going to be cars and their miles per gallon. So I'm going to name my dictionary cars. All right, let's take a look at our key value pairs. Oops. So the first one that we have is the Camaro, and it gets 18.21 miles to the gallon. All right, so we are going to come back over here. Our key is going to be Camaro. It is a string, and our value is going to not be a string. We're going to put in a number, and it was 18 point, if I remember, 21. That's right. All right, and then I'm going to put a comma because I'm done with that, and I'm going to move on to the next key value pair. So the key is going to be a string. The value is going to be a float. All right, let's keep going. The next one is going to be the Prius. It gets 52.36 miles to the gallon. So let's do it. Prius. And it gets 52.36. Hopefully that was right. Did I remember? Yes. Then we have the Model S. That's the Tesla. It gets 110. Let's add it in. Model S, colon, 110. And our last key value pair is going to be the Silverado, which gets 26 miles to the gallon. All right, very nice. So we've created our dictionary here. We have 4 key value pairs. All right, what's next? We need to, after creating the dictionary, print all the keys in the dictionary. To make it look nicer, you can convert the dictionary keys to a list and then use the print function with this syntax. All right. So what we're going to do, first of all, is get all the keys in the dictionary. All right, we want to print them all. So there is a specific way of doing that. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to go ahead and copy this right here. Right, because we're going to use that in our code. So first things first, if we want just the keys from this dictionary, there's a certain way to do it. All right, so let's say get keys from the dictionary. We need to put the name of the dictionary dot keys. And keys is a method, which is very similar to a function, so it gets a set of parentheses after it. But we are not going to put anything in the parentheses this time. We're just going to leave them as is. All right, now I'm going to actually take this and assign it to a variable. So let's say cars underscore keys. All right, so let me print out cars underscore keys, which should be a list of all of the keys in our dictionary. And if you remember, the keys are the part on the left of the colon. Right? Those are our keys. So let's give it a run and let's see what we got. All right, beautiful. So that worked well. That gave us a list of all of our keys. All right, so what we can do now is we can actually paste in that line of code that we got from the instructions, and we can change this part right here that says list name to our list name. All right, and that's the name of the list that holds all the keys. So it's going to be this, cars underscore keys. All right, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in here. All right, let's just run it one more time and let's make sure that the print statement that we just created works 12. All right, and it does. So this is printing the list of keys as is. This is actually printing it in a much more nice way, right? Cool. So let's take a look back at the instructions. And we're going to prompt the user to enter one of the vehicles from the dictionary. Keep in mind that the key must look exactly the same as it does in the dictionary because Python is case sensitive. So let's just do that. Let's ask the user to enter a car, right? So let's think about the data type that this needs to be. They're going to give us the name of a car. Does the name of a car need to be converted into a number, like a float or an integer? Probably not, right? A name is just going to be a string. So we're just going to leave it as a string. We're going to create a variable. I'm going to call it car underscore name. And we're going to use the input function to get a piece of information from the user. So let's say enter a car. All right, nice. So after the user has typed in the name of one of the cars, we're going to display the miles per gallon for that vehicle. All right. So if you remember, when we were grabbing a value from a dictionary before, we used the name of the dictionary, a set of square brackets, and then we put the key in the square brackets. All right. So let's get miles per gallon for the given car. So whatever car the user typed in for car name, that's the key that we want to get the value for. All right, so let's go ahead and say car MPG is going to be equal to the name of our dictionary. And then in square brackets, we want to put the key that we're looking for. Now we have the key saved as a variable right here, right? The user gave us that information. Keep in mind when you test out this program and it says enter a car, when you type in a value, it has to look exactly like one of these values, all right? It has to be capitalized if it's capitalized up here, and it has to be spelled exactly the same. So we can actually pass in here car name, right? Whatever the user gave us, that's the key that we're looking for. And what it's going to do is it's going to find that key and it's going to get the value and it's going to save the value in this variable here. So what we can do now is we can print and we can say, let's print out the name of the car and its miles per gallon. All right, so I'm going to use an F string and I'm going to say I'll put the name of the car here. All right. And then I'm going to say gets, and then I'm going to put however many miles per gallon it gets. Miles per gallon. All right, so let's just say theoretically that when we ask the user to enter a car, let's say they typed in Prius, just like this. All right, so it's going to look in the cars dictionary, find the key that says Prius, grab the value, and assign it to car underscore MPG. So when we get around to the print statement, it's going to say the car Prius gets 52.36 miles per gallon. All right, let's go ahead and give it a run at this point just to make sure everything works. And I'm going to actually type in Prius. All right, fantastic. So it was able to successfully pull the value given the key. All right, let's take a look and see if we have any more requirements. So what we have to do is tell the user to give us the number of miles that they want to drive the vehicle. All right, let's do it. Number of miles. That should probably be a numeric data type, right? So let's get miles from user and let's say miles driven equals. We are going to convert this to a number, right? I'm going to make it a float and we're going to get some input from the user. We're going to say, hey, how many miles will you drive the car? As a matter of fact, we can use an F string here and we can put the actual name of the car in here. Right? And if I make it an F string, I need to put my little F right here in the front. So how many miles will you drive the Prius? And let me put a question mark at the end. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to do some calculations. All right, calculate. And what are we going to calculate? We are going to say, calculate the gallons of gas that are needed to drive the specified vehicle the given number of miles. So in other words, we need to do a little bit of math. So we need to figure out how many gallons of gas we need for this car if we want to drive a certain amount of miles. So let's say miles driven is 50. All right. How would we determine how much gas we need for the Prius to drive 50 miles? Well, first things first, let's say gallons needed. Create a variable. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of math. So we're going to take the number of miles that we need to drive, and we're going to divide it by the miles per gallon that the car gets. All right, so I'm just using the variables that I've already created up here. So how many miles do I want to drive divided by how many miles per gallon the car gets. And that should tell us how many gallons of gas we need to drive that specified number of miles. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to display our results using an F string. All right, and the output needs to look like this. However many gallons of gas are needed to drive the whatever car the given number of miles. All right, so first things first, it's going to be an F string, so we need to put our little f. The very first thing that I need to display is the number of gallons of gas needed. And if you look back at our code, we have a variable here that represents that. So let me copy this, and I'm going to put it right here inside of my curly braces. All right, so it's going to say however many gallons, we'll say gallons of gas are needed to drive the, now we want to use the car name, all right, the name of the car, and we have the variable right here that represents that. So let's throw it in. I want to show you guys something. As you can see, I'm about to go off the screen with my string, and I don't want to do that. What you can do is you can actually put a space and put a backslash. All right, and you can hit enter, and you should, actually, let's not do that. That might make things a little more complicated. All right, we're just going to continue this string. It's going to be off the screen of what we can see, but that's fine, no worries. All right, are needed to drive the car the given number of miles. All right, and that was right here, right? Miles driven. So let's paste that in. And we will need to put the word miles at the end. All right, make sure that you have your print statement closed up with a parenthesis here at the end. All right, so let me make this just a little bit smaller. We can see everything without it going off the screen. So if you want to change your text, just go up there to Options, Edit Idle. We're going to make it small. There we go. All right, so let's just take one more look at this before we actually run it. We've created the dictionary. We've got a list of all the keys, right? Then we print it out. We actually print it two ways, and that's fine. Then we're going to ask the user to enter a car. We save that in a variable. Then we get the value that's associated with that key. So that's what this is doing, the name of the dictionary and the name of the key. We find the value for that, and we save it in the car's miles per gallon. Then we're going to do a print statement. We could say the car gets however many miles per gallon. Now we're going to ask the user how many miles do they want to drive the car. We're going to save it in this variable here. Now we're going to do a calculation that's going to tell us how many gallons of gas we need to drive a specific car a certain number of miles. And then lastly, after this calculation, we're going to display all the results. So it's going to say however many gallons of gas are needed to drive the car however many miles. All right, let's give it a run. All right, we don't have any syntax errors. That's good. If you do get errors, please don't be discouraged. Just come back to your code, try to find where the error is, and then run it again. Keep running it and keep fixing it until you get to where it doesn't have an error anymore. Or if you're stuck and you can't figure out why, always you can zip up your code and email it to me, and I'll tell you where the error is. All right, so let's use the same input as the example over here. All right, so I'm going to enter a vehicle to see its miles per gallon. Ours looks a little bit different, but the overall idea is the same. Enter a vehicle. All right, we're going to enter the Silverado this time. So I'm going to type it exactly like it is in the dictionary. All right, the Silverado gets 26 miles per gallon. Let's double check and make sure that's right. And it is, right? The Silverado gets 26 miles per gallon. All right, how many miles will you drive the Silverado? We're going to put 375.5. 375.5. All right. So it tells us how many gallons of gas are needed to drive the Silverado 375.5 miles. Everything looks really good, except that we have a lot of places after the decimal here. All right, that's too many places after the decimal. We don't care about being that precise. So what we want to do is we want to make it so that this only prints out 2 places after the decimal. All right, let's do it. We come back to our code. That was our very last line. So it has to be this line right here. All right. So what we need to do is we need to format this variable, gallons needed, right? That's the one that was printing out with all those places after the decimal. We're going to make it only print 2 places after the decimal. So let's put colon, a dot, a 2, and an F. And that should give us what we want. All right, this time when I run it, I'm going to actually use different input just to show you guys that you can use any input that you want. Okay, it doesn't have to be a Silverado. So let's say we want to look at the Camaro. I hit enter, and the Camaro gets 18.21 miles per gallon. How many miles will we drive it? Let's say we want to drive it 18.21 miles. And if it gets that many miles per gallon, then that means we should only have 1 gallon of gas needed to drive that far. So let's test it out and see how it does. Perfect. 1 gallon of gas is needed to drive the Camaro 18.21 miles. When you guys are going to test your program after you've written all your code and you think everything looks right and you want to run it, make sure that you test it out more than once with different input. All right, so the first time I used a Prius or Silverado, the second time I used a Camaro. You'll want to test pretty much all of these. You'll want to try it with each one of these just to make sure that they all work. All right. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Definitely make sure that you understand these concepts and you want to do the ZyBook reading before you go to do the homeworks. Okay, don't rely on these videos to get you through the homework. You definitely want to do the ZyBook first, and the homework should be the last things that you do. All right, good luck.